Ladies, let's keep it real. You ain't broken. You ain't unlucky. But if you keep attracting the same kind of man, you know, the one that starts off sweet and ends up emotionally unavailable, disrespectful, or just plain toxic, it's time to ask yourself a deeper question. It ain't always about them. Sometimes it's about the part of you that keeps choosing chaos over peace. And no, that don't mean you crazy. It means somewhere along the way, your heart got used to pain and now it calls it love. But guess what? Just cause it's familiar don't mean it's good for you. So today we dig into it. Thoughtful why you attract toxic love, how your past is playing in your present, and more important, how to break the cycle and choose better, starting with you. Now, let's get into the real issue, self-sabotage. A lot of folks out here think they're just unlucky in love. Nah, baby, it's deeper than that. Self-sabotage is when you start pushing away the very thing you say you want. You want a good man, right? Somebody solid, communicative, emotionally available. But then what happens? The moment someone treats you right, you start second guessing. You don't trust it. You get uncomfortable. You pick a fight, or worse, you run. Why? Because somewhere in your mind, love got wired up with pain. Maybe it came from childhood. Maybe you had to earn affection growing up. So now you think love has to hurt to be real. See, self-sabotage ain't loud. It's quiet. It looks like ignoring red flags because you don't want to be alone. It looks like choosing the man who needs saving instead of the man who's actually ready. And let me tell you something. When you expect abandonment, you'll start acting like you already been left, even if the person is still standing right there. So ask yourself, are you chasing peace or are you chasing what's familiar? Because if you've only known chaos, healthy love might feel boring at first. But baby, boring don't mean bad. Boring just means safe. And that's what real love feels like when you finally heal. Self-sabotage, let me hit you with some truth right here. You don't just attract what you want, you attract what you believe you deserve. That's why those same patterns keep showing up with different names, different faces, but the same outcome. If deep down you believe love equals pain, guess what you're gonna keep finding? Pain. If your heart says, I'm only valuable when I'm fixing someone, you keep getting projects instead of partners. It's like your subconscious got a GPS set to dysfunction. You don't even know you're doing it. You just feel drawn to folks who make you work for love, who keep you guessing, who feel familiar. But what's familiar ain't always healthy. It's just what your nervous system got used to. So unless you stop and reprogram that internal GPS, you're gonna keep ending up at the same emotional address. That's not fate. That's a pattern, and patterns can be broken, but only if you're honest enough to admit, maybe I've been choosing pain because it's what I thought love was supposed to feel like. All right, ladies, now we really about to talk. Let's go down the list of toxic patterns too many women fall into, not because you're weak, but because you were taught to confuse struggle with love. First up, the fixer. You meet a man who's broken, wounded, emotionally unavailable, and you think, if I just love him hard enough, he'll change. You start playing therapist, mama, life coach, everything but his partner. And let me tell you something. Love don't heal people who ain't trying to heal themselves. That's not love, that's labor. And one-sided labor will burn you out every time. Second, the chaser. You fall for people who give just enough to keep you hoping, but not enough to feel secure. And now you're stuck trying to earn love, sending long texts, analyzing every emoji, trying to convince someone to choose you. But if someone wants to be with you, you won't have to chase them. They'll meet you halfway. Real love ain't a game of tag. Third, the settler. You've been hurt so many times, now you tell yourself, at least he's not cheating. At least he comes home. Listen to me, bare minimum ain't a blessing. You don't have to shrink your needs to keep a relationship going. The moment you start making excuses for being unhappy is the moment you've forgotten your worth. Last, the rescuer. You attract men in chaos, thinking you can save them. But in trying to rescue them, you lose yourself. You ignore your own needs just to keep their world from falling apart. And in the end, you're left drained, resentful, and still alone. But guess what? These patterns ain't permanent, they're just programmed. And anything programmed, it can be rewritten. Now let's get real about how toxic love shows up in dating, because it don't always walk in the room screaming, hey, I'm bad for you. Sometimes it looks like chemistry, passion, butterflies so strong you forget to check for the red flags. See, toxic love is sneaky. It starts with intensity instead of consistency. They call you baby before they even know your middle name. Y'all talk for hours, stay up all night, make plans for forever in the first week, and it feels electric. But real love, it ain't supposed to burn you up in the beginning. Then comes hot and cold behavior. One day, they're all in. The next, they disappear. You're stuck wondering what you did wrong, questioning yourself, blaming yourself for their emotional mess. That ain't love, that's emotional whiplash. Toxic love also shows up as jealousy disguised as passion. They say, I just care about you, but they're tracking your every move. You stop going out, stop talking to your friends, thinking you're being loyal, but really,
you're being isolated.
And worst of all, you feel addicted. The lows are terrible, but the highs are so good, you convince yourself it's worth it. That's not a relationship. That's a roller coaster you never wanted to ride. So if love makes you anxious more than it brings you peace, baby, that's not love, that's survival mode, dressed up in romance. Now here's the real turning point. You want to stop attracting toxic love? Stop repeating the same cycle? It don't start with them. It starts with you. And I don't mean blame, I mean awareness. You got to get honest about what you've been accepting and why. That takes courage. You got to stop saying, why do they keep doing this to me? And start asking, why do I keep choosing this? Because once you become aware of your patterns, baby, that's when the game changes. See, awareness is the mirror, but ownership, that's when you pick the mirror up and say, this is what I've been doing and I'm not doing it no more. You stop waiting for apologies that ain't coming. You stop trying to fix people who ain't trying to grow. You stop calling chaos chemistry and start calling it out for what it really is, unhealed pain. Look, you might have learned survival in childhood, but now you get to choose healing in adulthood. And that first step, owning your story, is the one that opens the door to freedom. It don't matter what they did. What matters now is what you're gonna do next. All right now, this is where things get real. Because once you've seen the pattern, once you said, I'm done choosing pain in the name of love, the question becomes, what do I do now? How do I break the cycle? Step one, get still. I mean that not every situationship needs closure. Not every wound needs a reply. Sometimes you gotta sit with yourself long enough to hear your own voice again. That's where the healing starts. Not in another man's arms, not in another apology, but in you choosing peace over patterns. Second, write it down. You gotta see the pattern to break it. Make a list of the folks you've dated, not just their names, but how they made you feel. What were the red flags? What did you ignore? What did you crave? When you lay that out, you'll start to see that it was never about them. It was about a wound you kept trying to heal through them. Next step, set some damn standards. Not a wish list, standards. If peace ain't present, if communication ain't healthy, if effort ain't mutual, that's a no. No matter how fine he is, no matter how lonely you feel. Because every time you settle, you teach yourself that your heart don't matter. And let me tell you something, it does. And finally, get support. I don't care how strong you are, healing in silence ain't strength, it's survival. Go to therapy, read books, talk to someone who's been through it and grew from it. And don't you dare be ashamed of needing help. Asking for guidance, that's wisdom, baby. Breaking the cycle ain't about being perfect. It's about being intentional. Every time you pause before answering that text, every time you walk away from a red flag, every time you choose yourself, you're breaking the cycle. You ain't broken, you just been repeating. But now you're learning, now you're aware, and now you're free to choose better. Don't go back to what broke you, build what heals you. Breaking the cycle ain't about being perfect. It's about being intentional. Every time you pause before answering that text, every time you walk away from a red flag, every time you choose yourself, you're breaking the cycle. You ain't broken, you just been repeating. But now you're learning, now you're aware, and now you're free to choose better. Don't go back to what broke you, build what heals you. So let me tell you something real. Healing from toxic love, that ain't just about blocking numbers or walking away. That's just step one. The real work is what happens after the goodbye. Because if your mind is still wired to chase what hurt you, if your heart is still programmed to believe that pain equals passion, you're gonna keep going back to the same thing in a different body. That's why you gotta do the inner work. You gotta reprogram how you think, how you feel, and how you love. It starts by checking the messages you grew up with. Who told you love had to be earned? Who made you feel like being too much or needing too much was a problem? Who taught you that you had to shrink to be chosen? Listen, those voices, they're not facts, they're echoes, and you don't have to carry them no more. Start small. Affirm yourself every day. I am worthy of love that doesn't hurt. Notice your triggers. When you feel unworthy, clingy, defensive, pause. Ask, is this the present or am I reacting from the past? Speak kinder to yourself. Stop calling yourself dumb for what you tolerated. Baby, you were surviving. Now you're growing. And listen, it's okay to feel it all. You might cry, you might get mad. That's healing. That's your body finally releasing what it's held in for years. Don't push it down. Let it move through you. Emotional reprogramming ain't a switch, it's a process. But the more you choose peace over panic, clarity over chaos, and self-worth over desperation, the more your heart learns a new normal. And one day, without even realizing it, you'll stop craving what broke you, and you'll start welcoming what builds you. That's the goal. Not just avoiding toxic love, but becoming the version of you that would never settle for it again. And then finally, you're not cursed, you're not broken, you're just wounded, and wounds can heal. When you stop longing for men who validate your pain and start holding out for love that truly values you, you change the trajectory of your love story. Real love doesn't violate your worth. Real love honors you. So let today be the day you break the cycle and invite in healing, not heartbreak. Drop a comment if this hit home, and subscribe to Life Lessons inspired by Steve Harvey.